Welcome to I Just Got My Kid to Sleep. I'm Michael Palasek, your host of the show. I'm not really a host because I'm just the show, not to brag. And as you can see or hear, you can't really hear it, but I have a lot to brag about. I'm in a bathroom and it's Monday. It's Monday night. I just got my kid to sleep. A lady online recently commented that the word is child. I just got my child to sleep. And all right, I think kid is funnier, but she's correct grammatically. My grandmother, uh, great. No, she was great, but she was never a great. She was a great grandmother. That's what we want to get into. My lineage. My nephew was born while she was alive. She was a great mother, but she was a great grandmother to me. That's so. She's a great grandmother. They should have figured out a different word for that. Like she's I guess they didn't want to be like she's an old grandma. Like that's I bet that's what they did the first time. They're like, well, that's your grandma, but that's your grandma too. Well, it's your old grandma. Kids are so honest. I bet kids came up with that. So that's grandma and that's old grandma. Just say great. Just say great cuz no, that's old grandma. Great. Great. Great great. That's that one. That's really old grandma. And great, 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 we go visit her on Sundays in the ground, on the ground. I've never really visited anybody at a cemetery that's been passed. To all the people that have gone before, I I salute you. I appreciate you. I don't know. I guess I've been to funerals, and this is the funeral episode. Strap in, wakes, family, and I've been there when they go in, but they never. I'm there for the housewarming, but I'm never there. I never come back. I never do a pop in. I don't think I would mind. Not that I would. I guess I I would have to ask where they are. That's part of it. Like I have two grandparents on each side, four total. That's how it works a lot of the time. Everybody everybody has four grandparents. Let me do the math. I mean, I guess technically, I think technically, like very, very, very technically, everybody would have four grandparents. I don't know why that's confusing to me right now. I guess as a kid, some people didn't have four, but it's just because they weren't. They had to visit them on Sundays. Why do people go to the cemetery on Sunday? I guess it's a day off. My aunt taught in Chicago, and she said that I don't know, but people in Chicago, I guess, go to the cemetery on Sundays. Every Sunday, it's like a party. They're like, let's hang out here. Which, I mean, the more I know about how much it costs to bury somebody, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, use use the real estate, right? You go to the park, you got people running around, but you go to the cemetery, that's your spot. And chances are those other groups aren't showing up. So you might have a whole row to yourself. You can put your bouncy house there. I don't think you can. I think if I were like it would be fun if you had the. Oh man, that was such a bad drink of water. That was that had to be the worst that I've ever done on a show. I'm dying. Mm. You're gonna visit me on Sunday, and I like drank water. I was like, I don't need to drink water. And I was like, why not? It's my show. I'm the host and I'm in it. And, and so I was like, I'm doing it. I'm taking a drink of water. And then it's like the water was like, this was a bad idea. And like halfway down, it was just like, we're going back up. And I wouldn't let it. And, so anyway, when you get a lot of money and you can just spend it on stuff, I think it'd be fun to like pay for your cemetery plot and in there have like a contract where you can get a bouncy house there once a year for your grandkids so they can come hang out. And anyone's grandkids, really. Anyone's grandkids. Like, I feel like cemeteries should be a happy place when it makes sense. I understand they can be very somber. The time can be very like not good for people, but if they've lived a full happy life and they want their grandkids around them when they're old, when they're gone, Get the bouncy house in there. I lived in an apartment one time in LA. When my first one I ever lived in, it was a four unit building, which I didn't know what that meant because I'd never lived in an apartment before. Before that, I lived with my parents, and I lived in a dorms, and I lived in like an apartment buildings in college, and then a house, and then I lived with my parents, which was a three unit. That's We talked about that last week. We did. We all talked about it. Everybody, I talked about it. You might have listened. The basement is where I recorded last week's. It seems so long ago because I didn't sleep that much. So I've been really, I think I got 2 weeks in 1 week. Like, it really, if you look at it, my sleep was like if you look at it, are you gonna? No. But get some sleep if you can't. I feel like the one thing I thought about, this is one thing. This is the one thing. Sleep, not getting sleep is great because when you wake up and you're tired, you know that's why. Like that's your big problem. When you're going through your day and you're like, why does today suck? Like, wow, I gotta get more sleep. And it's a pretty thing that's kind of easy to fix. Like, just cut something out of your day that doesn't require you to pay rent or like eat, and then you get to sleep more. You can even probably shower every other day. That's what I learned as a parent. Before I was a dad, shower every day, sometimes 2 times a day. If you go to the, work out or whatever, I would try to time it so I didn't have to shower twice a day. I'd be like, I'm not going to shower until I go to the gym or go for a run or play sports. But sometimes I would just have to. Now I'm like, I showered yesterday. I'm not exercising until I I haven't done that in a while. Anyway, not getting sleep is great because when life sucks, you're like, all I have to do is get sleep. And that'll feel better. It's like starving. It's like a fast. People don't really sleep fast and say it's good for you. People will fast food-wise, and they're like, it's so healthy. People will be like, because fasting is healthy because your stomach doesn't have to do all the work. It can just hang out, and all the natural stuff can happen. And you're like, I'm hungry, and your stomach's just like chilling. I'm not going to work, which is a weird way to think about fasting. Like, your whole body's like, I just need food, and your stomach's like, oh, I don't care. I just love my vacation right now. I'm just hanging out, watching basketball, chilling. Who cares? And your whole body, I just want a burrito. I don't know why I said burrito. I don't really eat burritos. I like tacos. And why do I have to choose a burrito? I feel like when you grow up a little bit, like when you get to college or high, you're like, well, I'm going to get the burrito at Taco Bell or Chipotle. But I never made that leap. I like 3 little things versus 1 big thing. And I'm not going back. I don't think there's a time to go back. I've eaten burritos in my life, and I don't hate them. I think the thing I don't like about burritos is I don't like some of the things inside of them. And I just don't want to be the guy that's like, well, I want this, but not this, I'll have a burrito, but just all the things that are in a taco. That's what I would like. No, I'll just have tacos. They don't put beans in tacos, and I just don't like, I don't know. I just don't like them. But fasting is healthy for you, so everyone's like, you should fast. But not forever. You can only last, I think. I don't know what healthy is. People do intermittent fasting, and I remember when I first found out about that, I had become a parent of the son that's asleep right now. And let me tell you, everybody, it is 10:30 my time, 10:43 now, but we have a new world record for podcast early sleep. He's been asleep since almost like 10. We were in bed by 9. He's asleep. What? Pacific time's later, but who cares? Yeah. I feel like this is where the balloons fall down, and there's the earliest bedtime so far in the podcast. I'll interview myself. What is your secret, Michael? You got your kids asleep. There's a podcast that kind of does that already. Dumb Dads. They do like interviews post game, but that's for like dumb stuff. This is good stuff. What is your secret? What is your secret, Michael, on getting Jack to sleep early tonight before double digits? Well, it was fell asleep probably right at I think the key is that we started early, and I didn't get distracted. Sometimes when we're watching Paw Patrol, I'll be like, yeah, we should, like, he wanted to watch a longer one, a whole movie, and sometimes I would have been like, yeah, that's good. You probably know what's right, and I didn't do that. I just thought I knew what was right, and that's why we got to bed early. Which, that's pretty silly that That's the reason I haven't had success in the past. It's because I'm like, maybe my son is right. Maybe my 5-year-old son, who's only been on this earth for, this is repetitive, 5 years, is in his 6th year. Maybe he is right about sleep. Sometimes I feel like he is about food. Like sometimes I feel like he'll be like, I want this, not this. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I'd want that too. But sleep, I think he just wants to stay up. And so we're going to work on that. He starts school late. He starts school at 9:15. Well, I might have already covered. He starts. How do people do podcasts for years and not know what they already talked about? Especially like solo pod. Like, are they touching on stuff again and just not caring, or do they know so well? I don't know, but Jack starts school at 9, but they give you 9:15, so he gets there at 9:15. You can drop him off after 9:15, but he has to walk in by himself. It happened one time. One time I left my phone up in the apartment, so we went to go upstairs and get it. Went back down. Took so long that he got there after 9:15. And the lady, she's very nice. She works there, and she's like, we have to walk in by himself. And the gate, I was like, okay. I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal, but then he walked. There's like 2 gates. It's like entering a butterfly exhibit, a butterfly garden or whatever. Or they gotta have. You can't have there's got to be an area that's enclosed by 2 gates, so one can't get out without the other being open. There's 2 gates at the preschool, and so a kid can't get out with just one gate being open. I think that's really why. Butterflies and kids. And we were in the middle of the 2 gates, and then the other gate opened, and she's like, he's got to walk in by himself. And you can't really protest at that point because if it's anybody's fault, it's not his fault. He protests stuff and doesn't, but I'm the dad, You can't blame a child for anything. I don't know if you can blame a child for it. Is there anything out there that you can legit, as a parent, blame a child for? Chime in. Reach out on the Instagram and the email, Michael at michaelpalsack.com, at michaelpalsack on Instagram. Let me know, is there a thing then you can legitimately blame a 5-year-old for, and not hold it against him, but just know that you're not responsible for it, and that was something that they messed up themselves. And I think when I was a kid, or maybe like the further we go in generations, it was always the kid's fault. But I think nowadays it's like, and I believe it, well, if he's upset, he's just tired, and that he's allowed to be tired, or he's angry or sad. He's just expressing himself, and that's good. I don't like it when he got really angry. I don't want to forget the butterfly thing. Oh yeah, he got really angry yesterday, for those following along, Sunday night, because I didn't know. I got back early, technically, and so I ended up putting him to bed last night. And usually we have like a routine from when we enter the house to when we go to bed. If we do everything pretty normally, not extensively, but pretty this isn't rushed, but it's not, we're just taking our time. It's just like we're doing stuff. It's 4 hours from getting in the door to falling asleep. 4 hours is good. And that might seem like a long time to somebody. It did to me when I figured it out, when I came to accept it, which maybe I should dream big and try to cut it down. But it's like you get in the house, you take off your shoes, you put the shoes where they're supposed to go. Am I really going to walk you through it? But there's a little bit of video game time, and then we got to eat. And so that's the thing, we got to eat, cook. So that's in the 4 hours. He doesn't have to cook. He hasn't cooked one. I mean, if he was my roommate, I'd be like, what are you doing? What are you contributing? No, that's what I think. I don't think he meant. So we eat, we cook, we play video game. He found, I don't know, I talked about this before. Oh man, what did I talk about before? We found a Nintendo Wii in my closet last year. I was just thinking about this. It was right when he had turned 4, or like at the end of 3. It was in my closet. It was my old roommate's Nintendo Wii. My old roommate's Mii's are still on the Wii. And my old roommate, Joe, was a big filmmaker. He made films. And we made one together. I think it's called Grammar. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It's very short. Um, and he's really good at directing. And so he made a me that looked like Martin Scorsese. And it's still on there. Jack keeps wanting to like edit all the old ones, but I always made sure that he was on there because it looks like him. If you don't know what a me is, it's from the Nintendo Wii era. I don't know if they're on the Nintendo Switch because we haven't upgraded yet. I feel like that's the one thing I've stood up for as a parent that I haven't backed down. And Jack doesn't really know a lot about video games yet. But I'm like, we have a Wii. We're playing with that. There's no reason to upgrade to the Switch. The Switch is an investment. There's like new games. There's downloads. We didn't do these. Like when we had Nintendo when I was a kid, and Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64. There's a lot to work through before we purchase a whole new system, and it's not like his friends are playing and he's got to play. You know what I mean? So I haven't budged on that. No Switch. That's my rock that I'm standing on. This is the hill that I'll die on. No Switch. I like the Switch, but I'm not paying for a Switch until we beat Mario Galaxy with Luigi. And that's a pretty deep cut because I didn't even know about that. I stopped playing video games a lot when I was an adult. And I know I said that as if it was a surprise. Like, I can't believe I did that. But it's pretty normal, I think. Especially Nintendo is kind of for kids. But the Wii was kind of for everybody. And we had one. And we played the sports games. But that's still at my parents' house. But when my roommates and I broke up, and it was a breakup, man, that, whoo, I remember living in that. I say I remember a lot, like I'm surprised I remember. I remember living in that apartment and as it was all falling apart, realizing that I understood how wars could happen. That's how ridiculously, unnecessarily, ridiculously tense and uncomfortable and rude the whole situation was. And I don't know what I was gonna. I mean, I'm gonna say I don't blame my roommate, but I feel like that makes me sound like I was the jerk, which in a sense I think it was just a really awkward situation. And when you're living with people that aren't your family, you gotta sometimes people just take sides, and I took a side that, looking back, I don't think I wanted to or should have, but I took things personally. And I took a side, and I did. The whole thing kind of imploded, and maybe those details, I realized going into the podcast today, because sometimes when you're thinking about things, you get into like kind of a mode of not super. I don't know, constructive. I think is the word, constructive. We'll say constructive. And not that it's okay to just rant, but like I feel like if I'm going to produce something out into the world, constructive is a good place to start, right? For the people watching and listening out there. And maybe there's a more constructive way to go about talking about that some other day. But I don't think today's the day, to be honest. And I don't know if it ever will. But I could reach out to my roommate and we could talk still. I think we were okay. I just think the whole situation was it wouldn't have been bad if it wasn't for the side that I took. Anyway, that's way too personal. No, it's not too personal. It's just it's unclear. But we were all breaking up. We had decided we weren't going to live together anymore because of this decisions that were made. And that I was responsible for. I'll just leave it at that. I'm coming clear and clean. I was responsible for the decisions that kind of led to the whole implosion, and I didn't really want to stay together after all of it, anyways. and they were getting it was his roommate's Wii, who was very nice, but I never met him. I sublet an apartment, and his stuff was already in there, and he just let me keep his stuff. So he was cool. And I say that as if the other guy wasn't cool. I really lost everybody here. I feel like I lost myself. The whole thing is they had a Wii and they didn't want it anymore, and then someone was just like, "Who cares about this?" And I literally I've never refurbished anything in my entire life. Like in my entire life, I've never looked at like an old thing and be like, "I want to make that better and keep it or whatever." But growing up, Nintendo was such a big part of my young childhood. Not that I played a lot every day, but I just when I was a kid, like video games just kind of had started in a weird sense. I mean, maybe that had been. I mean, I guess when you're a kid, everything feels like it just started. That's what being a kid is. But it kind of felt like this new thing, like it was a cartoon you could interact with, and and I just remember it. And my parents, they got us we got a Nintendo for Christmas from Santa, and that's what it was, and I just remember like one of the reasons was like, oh, people just got them in the neighborhood, and it was good because if you didn't have one, you were going to your friend's house, and my parents just they want us to have friends and play with our friends, but not to go over to a friend's house just to play a video game. Um, and I definitely had done that at that young of an age. Like I went over to our neighbor's house and I wanted to hang out and play video games, and I had to be like, I don't know, like 5 or 6. I was just thinking about that the other day. How I mean, I live in LA, so it's different, but I don't know if there's ever a neighborhood out there anymore where you can just let your kid who's 5 or 6, like, walk around the development and knock on another kid's house. Maybe there is in the suburbs or whatever. I hope there is. I remember being very young, going across the street and playing video games with a friend who was a little older, and we played Contra, and he was really good, so I just tagged along while he beat Contra. Anyway, I refurbished this Nintendo Wii. Like it was so like I could realize the value of it in that moment, because if you don't change the batteries on any toy, really, it starts to the batteries will erode or whatever. Like I don't know what the term is. They'll turn into things that look like it could turn you into a mutant, if you touched it, like the batteries ooze. Did you know that? And I used to see that in things, and I was like, well, you just gotta throw that away. But then I saw that in the controllers of this Wii that no one was going to take with him, and I was like, well, there's got to be an answer. So I Googled it, and I found that you just have to take Q-tips and dip them in something. I don't know. I don't want to put this information out there if it's not. But if you Google it, it'll tell you exactly what to do. It's very easy. If you have a toy or a video game controller where the batteries have seeped into it and made it feel like you would become an X-Men if you played with it, or poisoned and die. And I cleaned it all out with the Q-tip, and I let it dry out. And I cleaned the other one. And I cleaned the other one. And this is all while people are packing and making big life changes, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna figure out this thing first. And so I did all that. They had the box still. I put it in the box, and the other person that was gonna take it didn't want it, so I took it and I put it in my closet, and it just sat there like a treasure, like a treasure in a movie about finding treasure. And it was there. It was I in my room right now in my apartment, I have a closet, a big closet, and then I have these what did I just say that it was in? Man. I just found out recently in my bedroom I have a linen closet. What? Michael G. Palisak. Whoa. I have a linen closet. I just thought that was a place to put clothes that you weren't hanging up. But apparently it's for linens. And there's a lot of room for linens. I have 2 bedrooms, but I think I could fit linens for 3. Well, it's not just bedrooms, it's towels and stuff, right? I gotta wash some towels. So anyways, I just found that out because the neighbor below me moved out. We talked about that. And I don't think they moved back in. And no one upstairs has complained. I just realized, though, that there's someone that lives next to this bathroom, next to me and Dr. Teeth. Shout out to Nikki for the name. And I wonder now if they can hear this podcast this way. And I wonder if they hear it and they're like, I gotta hear the actual recording, because what I heard through the wall, I just couldn't stop listening to. So I gotta hear without the muffle. No, I wonder if it's too loud, because I feel like I gotta talk, I gotta connect. I have to express, and if I'm worried about anything, then how can I really connect with everybody? My hand gets so big when I reach towards the camera. Anyway, I put the Nintendo Wii in the box in my linen closet that I didn't even know was a linen closet. I just thought it was a thing to put stuff, clothes that were folded, extra stuff. I put it in there, and it just stayed there. And I never played it 1 second. Never 1 second. And then, when Jack was 3 years old, before he turned 4, he loved DVDs. Not watching them. He just loved, as a baby, picking up a DVD and sliding in to the DVD player and trying to press the button to make it go in. And then he would pull it out with his fingers and get his little fingerprints all over the only hard copy you have of a movie that you don't know if it exists streaming or digitally. And he would just do that. He would jam it into the DVD player and not know which buttons to press. And as a young, tired parent, young as in we were new, not young as in super young, parents can be super young. As a, in 30s parent, we would just be so tired and be like, that's his toy right now. I'm going to watch him and make sure it's safe. But I'm not going to tell that kid that this outdated technology he can't play with, because I didn't see any immediate danger. And that was my bar when he was a kid, of saying no to stuff. Is there any immediate danger? No? Okay. Well, I guess his toy right now is my copy of the original Ninja Turtles movie. So anyway, he knew about sliding discs into things, and he knew that he liked it. And I think he knew that it made something happen. But I'd have to ask him about that. But I don't know if he'd even remember. And so he saw the Wii in the box. It was in the box. And he pulled it out of my closet, my linen closet. And he was like, he just pointed at it and used whatever words he could remember. And use. When he was that age, it's funny to think, at that age he could use more words. But it's funny to realize, we went to an indoor playground today, and there was a little girl that was probably like 2 or 3, and I think there was like a babysitter who was watching her and her friend, and she wasn't watching them do anything. Like, we were back in the trampoline area, and I was supervising my child, as you do, because how do you get this without supervision? This is a Super Dad trophy I'm holding up. You don't get this by not supervising. You can't get Super Dad without, you can't spell Super Dad without part of the word supervision. So I'm supervising my kid. I'm doing the best I can. And this girl's like 2 or 3, and she needs some supervision. But she's using some words, and I could talk to her, which was cool, because I didn't know if I would lose that power when my child grew up a little bit. Because when he was like 2 or 3, and I was with him like every second of every day for a while, you're like, oh, I know everything he says. And then he would say some stuff to some other family, and they'd be like, what did he say? I'm like, I know exactly what he says. I felt like he was like E.T. I feel like a lot of Jack's childhood, he was like that, like E.T. or Winnie the Pooh. Like, either I'm interpreting an alien to this new planet, or we're wandering around this pretending stuff in a forest, or not a forest. And I really like that, because I don't really remember a lot about E.T., but Winnie the Pooh is a great story. But the kid grows up, and it's really sad that he leaves his toys at home. But once you have like a kid, you get to realize that it's your job to play with your own little Winnie the Pooh. And that's just the way I looked at it. And you don't read that in any books. I don't know if that's encouraged, but that's the way I did it. We just kind of followed our whims, to a certain extent and pretended and played and pretended and played and pretended and played. And he's 5 and we're still pretending and playing. But I can remember when he didn't really know he was pretending and playing. It was just the way he was all the time. And yeah, I could do it all again. I think so. Anyway, he got the Wii out and he's like, "We're doing this," in his own little words. And as the following my rule of like it's not gonna hurt him, I was like, all right. So I plugged it in, and I tried to hook it up. And new TVs don't have a Wii hookup. Did you guys know that? If you got a Wii, you gotta go on Amazon or wherever and order a Wii hookup. They're very easy. I said that like that was gonna be a whole nother adventure. We had to go to this guy who made his own keys at a shop, but he also sold. No, you can go on Amazon or wherever. I usually don't list websites, and order this thing. But that was my first excuse to Jack. I was like, "Oh, I don't have the connection to it," and I just sort of left it out. We can't do it today. He's like, "All right," and then he asked the next day and the next day. I was like, "All right, well, okay, I'll order this thing. I will order it," and I believe he watched me order it, and we ordered it. And then it came, and yeah, I try not to lie also because I feel like I don't know. Part of me I feel like I'd be a better parent if I did lie in the short term. Like when you lie to your kids, it's very easy to just get away with whatever. You know, when I was a kid, if I asked for something in the store, my dad would look at me and he'd say no. I don't even know if he looked at me. What? I don't gotta set it up so much. Maybe he was looking at me. Maybe he was looking away. He probably looked at me, but he would be like, "I'm poor. I can't afford it. I'm poor." And I could say that to Jack every time he asked for something, and I would be 100% honest. So maybe my dad wasn't lying. But I don't want to tell my kid I'm poor. I think being poor is just kind of a side effect of having another life to cover, you know? Like, if you're not poor after having a child, then you could probably have another kid. Right? Like, isn't that, if you're going to have a kid, you might just have them until you're poor. Otherwise, the one kid's just going to get everything. And it's probably more fun to spread it out. Chris Rock said that in a Fallon thing, not that specifically, but how like you should have more kids. Because you have one, then you're just the one playing with them all the time, which I like, but I get the benefit of siblings. So anyway, I didn't want to lie, and I ordered the thing, I plugged it in, and we played, I don't remember what the first game was. It was probably like, he has Paper Mario or Mario Galaxy, and he kind of did part of it, and then I did part of it, and I thought that would be it. So I put it away the next day. I put it away right when he went to bed, because I was like, he was 4 by the time it got ordered and everything, and I was like, this is going to be, I could see it in his eyes, like there was a little bit of anxiety, and I don't know a lot about being a parent at that for those kids. You never know a lot about the age you're being a parent for, but I could tell I was like, well, that's anxiety that wasn't there before, and maybe we wait until you can handle it better. And so I put it away, and he was like, the next day was like, no, we're doing that again. And it took him a little while to figure out the difference between a video game and a movie, but we did. And I think there's barely ever been a day since that we haven't done it. And this hopefully doesn't get me in trouble. You know, he's 5 now. I don't think there's any, I looked it up. There wasn't anything like in health wise in the internet about playing video games with your kids. I heard when screen time mainly counts when you give your kid your phone and you're like, go do something while I work or whatever. And then you're supposed to not do that all the time. And we didn't play for like hours and hours and hours. So it was like, we're engaged, you know, but I can definitely feel like the pressure. If you've never played a video game with like a child's life depending on you not dying, like not life, but a child's anxiety or bedtime depending on you not dying, like it's a different kind of pressure. I'll tell you that, because we would get to a certain level and it would be like, all right, we're going to get ready for bed now. We're going to start our 4-hour process of going to bed once, or I guess 3 hours of the video games, or 3.5. And once I finish this level, and then all of a sudden, this is the level that the Mario Galaxy people decide like, well, this is gonna be the one that's gonna be hard for people. Like when I was a kid, like there were levels that kind of like built in degree, but in Mario Galaxy, which is exciting for people to hear about, I'm sure. There's like usually the last level of each like world or whatever isn't super hard, and like the boss could be hard, but I don't know. There's usually like a couple like levels in between that are like puzzles kind of, or just like really hard skill wise, and those are the ones that just take you. Like I still have the music stuck in my head from this donut one where you keep falling in the stupid ground, and like in in my Mario, you just fall into a hole and it goes da 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 da, something like that. But in Mario Galaxy, when you die, you fall out of the atmosphere into a big black burning hole, and Mario goes woo. Okay, well, ah. Do we need to talk about this, Jack? Like, are you okay? He's gonna be back. Like that's a lot. Like when they jump into a hole and they're gone, it's like, oh, there he is again. When he jumps, he sees them go into the fire. Like I don't know. We play. There's another. Anyway, we played Paper Mario, which is a different video game, where I later found out at the end of it all, in some like list I found on the internet, that was like one of the darkest Mario games I think ever made. And there was a point where we just stopped playing because he was like, I can't. And I've never pushed any of this on. He just wants, and it doesn't seem like it's hurting him too bad. Anyway, I don't remember. I really don't remember any of that. But now that's a part of our lives. And we've just learned recently, I've used the word flexible with Jack, and that seemed to really help. If there's parents out there, or if you're just dealing with a loved one who's difficult as a 5-year-old, I say, well, maybe we'll be flexible tonight. Because yesterday, that's what it was. Yesterday, we started bedtime like super late. Like, he already had a bath and dinner, but it was like he was going to bed. I was putting him to bed, and he wanted to play video games, and we played for a little bit, and I was like, well, I think now we have to be flexible because it's late already, and I could see he was tired, and he was like, okay, we'll be flexible. So maybe that's something that you all can use in your life. Sometimes this is the first time I've done a podcast where I took like a narrative all the way through, and I don't remember where I was before this, and I really thought that something was important. But flexible is pretty good. We got that out of it. I do have some pages over here. These are notes that could help. I don't know. But yeah. Where were we in the beginning? Just having a good time, I'm sure. That's Dusty Slay's podcast. We're having a good time. That's like 3 different podcasts we've listed right now. I don't listen to a podcast really, but Dusty Slay is a comedian. When I was a kid, no, he's younger than me, I'm pretty sure, and he's a Netflix special, and I just started my podcast recently, and I posted about it, and he said my podcast should be called I Just Got My Kid to Sleep, and I was confused by that, because I was like, is he saying that that I shouldn't do it, you know? Like, does he have creative rights to this, or did somebody else already name it that and he wanted to, and he's like, that's mine? And Dusty's a super like nice, cool guy, and so I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I think whenever you type something, it can always be read. Like, if he were to come up to me and be like, I think I would phrase it like, oh, I don't know how I'd phrase it, but then he commented late. He was like, well, whenever I start my podcast, I say I just got my kid to sleep, which is still a little weird because it's like, well, do you want to call yours that now? You know? I don't think he does. I think he's doing great with having a good time. We're having a good time. But I just have to give him credit where credit is due. It's good to give people credit where credit is due. Let's see what we got. flight credit. That's what this says. So I called to get a flight. I have a flight credit on one of the airlines, and this is one of the podcasts where I had to go to the notes. I don't know if I like it. I don't think I do, but we'll see where it takes us. I have flight credit. Isn't that interesting? Well, you know what a flight credit is? Yeah, a flight credit is where you buy a flight before the pandemic. Okay, if you bought your flight on any major airlines, anyone in the United States, maybe Europe also, maybe the Eastern European Union. That's not a thing. Maybe in USSR. Oh, I was talking about funerals earlier and wakes. We'll go back. And all the major airlines, if you bought a flight, it was like over. That's where that's the money you spent. It's gone. If you don't want to buy it, you want to change it, it would cost you like $250 to change a flight, or like $150 plus the flight difference. So sometimes it'd be cheaper just to lose the flight, just to eat it. You know, when I started doing shows at colleges, when I first started doing stand up on the road a lot, if your flight was less than like $200, it's like, well, that's just, you can't use it. It's just gone. It's just gone. And now airlines are way more super cool, and they're all that way except Alaskan. Just not ripping on Alaska. What's cool about Alaskan Airlines is like their first class isn't that expensive compared to the other classes. It's more like a half class price wise, maybe a quarter. Maybe they just like to treat people well. They also have a middle class that's pretty well tended to, and there's more space. I feel like Alaska is more like the way you want the world to be, you know? United, Delta, they might be a little more like there's a big gap. Like, especially if you're on a long flight, those people in the front have like, that could be your office. Like, the seats go all the way back. You could sleep 180 degrees. I don't have a lot of wrist flexibility to show you this. 180 degrees you could sleep, and then you're in the back, and there's the only thing that's 180 degrees is you're straight up, you're upright, like when you stand up, because you need to stretch your legs. There's a big gap. But anyway, all the major airlines now that are like the discount ones, like Delta, United, American, Southwest has done it forever. If you cancel your flight, they give you a flight credit. Isn't that cool? That's pretty cool. So there's no pressure. There used to be this pressure of like, I'm buying this. Do I want this? What do I do? Am I really going to do this trip? What if something changes? Then I'm out all this money. Then I don't know what to do. And now it's just like, yeah, whatever. But sometimes I have a residual emotion like that, especially late at night. Buying a flight, it's not bad going off the notes. I don't mind this topic. Now that I'm talking about it, I really don't mind it. And I think sometimes I imagine people listening and being like, kind of thinking about where they want it to go or where it should go. But maybe people are listening and just being like, where do you want it to go? And I guess maybe I didn't really want it to go there. I just didn't know where it was going to go and everything to say. That's what it was, honestly. I got so wrapped up in that Wii story that it probably was really didn't have a point. That I kind of forgot about the whole funeral wake thing. But the flight credit thing, that is now, I still have a residual emotion. I don't try to buy flights, but I buy flights sometimes late at night because it's like an easy way to feel like you accomplished something, Like I don't have to write an email or like think about a joke or like anything like that. I can just like spend money and be like, well, that was work, Like I'm investing in my future travel by buying it ahead of time. And that's like my job, earning points or whatever, miles. And so I do it at night sometimes. And so at night, but sometimes at the night you're tired, especially if your kid didn't go to sleep right away, like not like tonight, because what? We did it. What did you do today, Michael? Well, I didn't get too wrapped up in Paw Patrol. I kind of kept video games to one level. We took a long time on the first level of Batman Lego, and so I knew that if we took a good amount of time on one level, we wouldn't try to do two levels. And then for dinner, I made what I was going to eat, and I just hoped that he would want it. And if he didn't, then I was going to feed into whatever he was wanting to eat, even if it was like sugar, because I feel like if he eats it, then there's no fight. And if there's no fight, there's no emotional thing. And then he's responsible for what he ate, and I try to give him the food that I want him to eat too. And then we take a nice warm bath, and then we watch Paw Patrol. I didn't get wrapped up in Paw Patrol. I already said that part. This is me answering the question from earlier about how I got my kid to sleep so early, as if I was a professional athlete, and just in case you got lost, and then you might be completely, and then we read. I said one book. He said one book, but they did two. But they were short books. He was kind of tricked because one of the books looked thicker because it was one with noises on it. It was a Jurassic World book where the thing, and he got really caught up in the noises. But it was a short book, so I was like, that's fine. And it was before 10 o'clock, so there's no quiet hours at the apartment building, and then he was ready to go to sleep. And normally I get frustrated because he's not sleeping right away. But I was just like, I'm gonna try to go to sleep, and I let him go to sleep. And that's just really, I just really trust it, and I like to thank God right now, which I do thank God. And I think that's how I got into bed so early. Again, the good part about doing a podcast is you can talk about flight credits. So at night, when I don't get my kid to sleep that early, and if I try to buy a flight, I can get kind of there's a residual emotion from when I first started doing comedy of like, is this the right flight? Because everything that you pick there's sometimes it's just the perfect one, and the perfect price, and the perfect time, and you can't find a reason to not like this flight. The right seat is available, the right time, the right layover length, the right baggage, price, the points. Yeah, sometimes it's just perfect, and that's the first one. And then you try to get the return, and you're like, well, this is like it's a different puzzle now. It's not matching up. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't have flown into the airport. Maybe I should fly in a different airport. And then you start questioning everything. But then you don't realize you could just buy it. Just buy it and just change it later if you don't want to. Especially if you have a flight credit, because that money is already out there. You should never have flight credits in your Bank America. Bank of America. Bank of America has I have an issue with them. Someone fraudulently deposited a check of mine, and they won't give me the record of it. And so my employer will not, write me a new check or do a case. Side note. Anyways, America, you should not have a flight credit in your flight trip account, because that's their money. You gotta put it to you buy whatever flight you want next, and just switch it again. Unless I think Southwest doesn't let you do that. Fact check all this advice. That's the name of my next album for comedy. I was on an airplane yesterday, and this lady was talking about flying. She was flying to Hawaii, and I had been there one time when we were doing shows for Last Comic Standing. I was on that show the last season, in season 9. Maybe not the last season ever, but so far. And we got to go to Hawaii for shows. And she started asking about Hawaii and all these different, and I started telling her, and I was like, you should probably fact check all of this. And I think that's just a good lesson for all of you out there. This isn't informational. Well, if it's not informational, what is it, Michael? This is entertainment, right? That's another good name for a podcast. This is entertainment, right? Another good name for a podcast? That might actually. Anyway, you shouldn't have flight credits hanging out in your flight profile, because put them out there. Buy something new. But you're not spending your money, you're spending their money. And you'll get the longer ways out there is cheaper. I've heard 4 weeks is good. Maybe if you go too far out, the prices aren't that cheap. Anyway, I had a flight credit, and it wouldn't let me use it on the app, so I had to call the actual airlines. And part of me feels like it's all a conspiracy. This is not a conspiracy podcast. That's another good name for this podcast. And I feel like I talk about a lot of stuff on my podcast, and if I went back and listened to it, I'd be like, well, why did I get into that? Like regrets only podcast. I've also been talking faster, I feel like, which may be good if people are like driving because they're awake, or like painting. Like my idea is like art students are listening to this while they do their projects. One guy told me like that 15 years ago to do a podcast for that reason. And this one's for you. And also a couple other people said they would listen everyone I did, so I won't ever know. But I appreciate it. Um, so I called to use this flight credit, and I feel like it's a conspiracy because they're like, well, if we make them call, maybe they'll never use their flight credit, and then we'll get that money back like we always wanted. And so I called because with the conspiracy feeling in my soul, this negative resentment is the word, and 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 they did it, but before they did it, I told them what they wanted. I wanted the flight. I wanted to book, and the thing, and the guy was like, all right, we're gonna put you on a brief 3 to 5 minute hold. And I was like, and they're like, is it okay? And well, what am I gonna do? No, nope. I'd rather just hang up and not use my flight credit like you wanted to me to, Mr. Big Airlines. That's just what you want. I'll stay as long as I want. No, it's just funny to me that they use the word brief before they said 3 to 5 minute hold. You could have just said 3 to 5 minute hold. I get to judge whether it's brief or not. You don't know what my life is like. I might do things. I might just watch things on social media that are 30 seconds long. 3 to 5 minutes is like 6 of those, 8 of those, 10, 5 times 2 is 10. Yeah, I did that math without even trying. And that's not brief. You know, if I watch movies and you're like, this is going to take 10 movies, oh, that's 20 hours. You know, that's a long hold. I like the places. I love this. This might be my favorite new technology out there. It's been around for a little while. I always backpedal on everything. But I love it when I call and they're like, the wait is going to be a certain amount of time, but we'll hold your place in line. All you have to do is just press 1 and then say your name after the tone, and then we'll call you back. And I always do it, and they call back, and I love it so much because I can live my life, do whatever. But my other second favorite part of this situation is when they're like, they call and I get so excited because I always think it's going to be them right away. I always think they're just going to jump into the call, but they call, and then it's a robot voice again, and like, please press 1 when, and then it's my voice. Michael Palasek is there, and I'm just like, ah, ah, that's a message from me and a robot. What is happening? Please press 1 when Michael Palasek is here. Yeah, how did they record? Whoa, they record and play. No, yeah, I am here, but I'm floored right now. My mind is you took me from the past and brought it to now, and yeah, that's now you're telling me that I'm here. Then I have to tell me that I'm here. Don't have me tell me I'm here. Just have someone say my name the way I said it. Please press 1 when Michael Pal. No. No, 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 no. But I love it. It's like a love. No, 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 no. It's not like a no. It's like a, oh, wait. What is going on? What is going Nah. It's like when you see yourself in a reflection and you don't expect to. It's like, who's that guy? Who is that? Who's saying my name? Well, I think this is a good place to stop. I never got back to the wake thing, but to all the people that are there that might have lost somebody, I'm thinking of you, and I appreciate you, and I value you and your time. And I'll make a trip to the cemetery in honor of all of you. People are special in our lives, and it's important to have those people. And it's sad when they leave, but I know when I've lost people, I always see those people again in other people around me, and maybe like a new child in the family or just a new friend. You catch glimpses, and I don't know what that means, but and it's probably not a good consolation for someone who's really close to that person, but it's something I've noticed. It's just a notice, just a thing I noticed. But yeah, this is I just got my kid to sleep, and I'm gonna go to sleep too. I'm going to Atlanta on Wednesday, and then Tennessee, Bristol, Knoxville, and I feel like when I advertise my shows at this podcast, it's a little assuming that this is drawing in enough listeners to cover different regions of the country, but you know, that's where I'll be. I'll be in the Northwest the next week in Portland, Tacoma, and Chinook Winds, Lincoln City, Oregon. And then the next week is Salt Lake City area, Utah, and then I'm up in Montana, and I'm going to the Mount Rushmore area. Then I'm in Montana that weekend. I love Mount Rushmore, so that'll be fun. Thank you, 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 thank you for listening to this. I or not, and thank you for not hearing this right now. I appreciate you. Have a great. This will probably be Tuesday for you, and yeah. All right, the end.